A left-leaning liberal journalist at NPR just came out and did something very surprising, very brave, very courageous actually, and I respect him for it. He called out a denigration of their standards and called out why it is that NPR no longer represents the views of all Americans, but speaks to a tiny sliver of the overall population, while effectively spitting in the face of the rest, lying to the general public about the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that never was, the Hunter Biden laptop story that we now know was true, but was systematically suppressed and rejected by mainstream media, including NPR, on the eve of the last presidential election. The origin of COVID-19, the idea that it could be a lab leak, systematically derided and suppressed before we now know it to be true. I think it takes a lot of courage. As somebody who probably disagrees with this journalist on a lot of things based on his self-stated views, I can still respect that he's working in an institution that has one hegemonic set of views, and he defected from that. Now, people may say that NPR has always been liberal. What were you thinking? Of course it has been. I listened to NPR growing up on my way to school. That was what our carpool driver used to play when driving us to junior high school and high school. But it's not the same left-leaning NPR then that exists today, just as it's not the same Harvard or the same Yale that exists today compared to the institutions that I went to. 15 years ago, I graduated from Harvard in 2007. Was it left-leaning? You're darn right it was. Was I a bit of a heterodox contrarian on campus? As somebody with strong libertarian leanings, I was. Even a few years later, I went to Yale Law School from 2010 to 2013. I was one of the very few conservative-leaning, openly, certainly conservative-leaning classmates in my class. But was it the same institution that it is today? No, it's something else altogether. It's not a liberal bias that's at work. There's something else. It's an illiberal rejection of dissent. You see, it used to be a liberal idea. You could even call it a progressive idea, that you were allowed to say whatever you wanted and that you had the right to say it. It used to be people on the right that resisted that and people on the left who said they were the free speech absolutists. Well, what's happened now is a reversal of that commitment to a culture of free speech, both in our country and within an institution. And that's different than whether or not you have a liberal or conservative leaning. And that's what makes this NPR reporter's defection. That's what it is. He's defected from his class. He's a traitor to his class. That's what makes his move all the more admirable. And whether you're liberal or conservative, you got to respect somebody who sticks it to the man in their own institution and speaks the truth, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. And I'll always give credit where credit is due.